All right, hi everyone. So we're gonna try this today to see how this works, all taking video notes together. So the first thing we're gonna go over is rate of change. So if you could pause the video and just write down what I just wrote down. The rate of change is essentially the slope. So we can even write slope here, okay? It's a fraction that shows how fast a graph's y variable changes compared to x. So remember with slope, change over y over change in x is the slope, which is also rise over run. So we're going to talk about that in this lesson. Slope is written as a fraction. I'm going to zoom in here. Of the vertical change, which is the rise, to the horizontal change, which is run. This is where we get rise over run. This remains constant, which means it doesn't change for any 2 points on the same line. All that means is that like the slope from here to here, for example, is going to be the same slope from here to here when we're talking about a straight line. Like the rise over run part is going to be the same. That's what it means. That's what this means right here. Slope is written as a fraction in reduced form. And the variable for slope is going to be m. So y equals mx plus b, m is always your slope. Okay, now there's 4 different types of slope. You're going to have positive slope, which always looks that direction, negative slope, negative, when it turns the other way. You could think of it also as someone walking from left to right. So if we're walking up, right? Up this line, that would mean it's a positive slope. Here we're walking down, so it's a negative slope. And then a zero slope is just a straight horizontal line, because if we were walking here, that would be zero slope. We wouldn't be walking up or down a hill. It would just be 0. And then undefined. Looks like this. So when we're finding the slope on a graph, we're going to be using m. Remember, m is the same thing as slope. So the slope equals rise over run. So you're going to start at this point, and you're going to rise. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4. So rise 7, run 4, and they're both positive. So your slope is 7 over 4. And it should be positive, right? Because remember, this way is a positive slope. You see how this line is going in that direction? That means your slope should be positive, and it is. It's a positive 7 over 4. Okay, now if we're looking here, to get from this point to this point, we have to go down. So now this is negative. We're going down 1, 2, 3. Down 3 means negative 3. And then right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So down 3 means negative 3, right 9 means positive 9. And then we're going to simplify. So divide by 3. So it's negative 1/3. Okay, number 3, this slope is this line. That slope is 0. And this one, we're talking about this line, and that slope is undefined, right? We just talked about this in the examples above. Okay, next page, number 5 through 12. I'm going to have you guys try 5 through 12. So I want you guys to try 5 through 12, and then check this with me when you're done. And then we're going to go on to lesson 6. So Lesson 6 is about the slope formula. So if we're given a graph, we do rise over run to find the slope between 2 points. If we're given 2 points and we're not given the graph, we're going to use this formula. M, remember M equals means the slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then remember, it is important to remember to simplify your answer. Okay, so simplify whatever your answer is, you want to simplify to its lowest term, okay? Find the slope between each pair of points. So what we're going to do is we're going to label here. I'm going to label this first point x1, y1. You don't have to label if you don't need to. But notice I'm labeling the first point with 1s and the second point with 2s. But the very first point here, that 1 is always your x point. But I'm going to call it x1, and your second x point is going to be x2. Okay? And then we're going to plug it into this formula. Remember, this was your formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So m equals, your slope equals, y2, so we're going to take 3, because that's your y2, minus y1, which is 1. So 3 minus 1 over, and then your x2 is going to be 4 minus x1, which is 1, over 4 minus 1. So that's going to be 2 over 3, and you can't simplify that, so your slope here is 2/3. Okay, 2. I'm just rewriting this because I want you guys to see how I'm plugging this in. Okay, so, and if you want to label this, this is x1, y1, and x2, y2. So your slope is, and you're going to say y2 minus y1. So y2 is negative 2, minus y1 is 4. Now here's the part I want you to pay attention to. You see how it's x2 minus x1? x2 is 10, minus x1 here is going to be negative 2. Okay, notice this negative, this minus, is part of the formula. This x1 that we're going to plug in right now is a negative as well. So you see how there's two negatives next to each other? That turns into a positive. So it's going to be negative 6 over 12, because now it's 10 plus 2, and I can divide both of those by 6 to simplify that fraction. So it's negative 1/2. That's your fraction, or that's your slope. Number 3, this is x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm going to be referring to the slope formula that I wrote above. So slope equals, m equals, y2 is negative 5, minus y1 is 5, over x2, x2 is negative 8, minus x1 is negative 4, so it's minus negative 4. So two negatives make a positive, so we're going to make that negative 8 plus 4, so negative 10 over negative 4. I can simplify this by dividing both of them by 2. And I can also make them positive. So watch, negative 5 over negative 2. Do you see how both of these are negative? Negative 5, negative 2. A negative, remember this means divided by. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So if both the top and bottom are negative, your simplified answer would be positive, 5 over 2. Okay, I'm going to skip 4. I want to do 5 and 6, and then move on to the very last part. Let's try 5. Let's try 5 and 6. Okay, so here this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 would be 9 minus 9 over x2 minus x1 would be 3 minus 5. So 9 minus 9 is 0, 3 minus 5 is negative 2. 0 divided by negative 2 is 0. So your slope here is 0. Okay, now on the next one, let's look at the next one here. Number 6, this is x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, you're going to do y2 minus y1. So y2 is 5, minus y1 is 8, over x2, which is negative 7. So negative 7, minus negative 7, right? Minus negative 7. So that's a plus. And then that's going to be negative 3 over 0. Now look at the difference here. 0 over negative 2 is 0. When you have a 0 on the top of the fraction, you're going to have the answer is 0. But when you have a 0 on the bottom of the fraction, your answer is undefined. So this slope is undefined. And if you type it into your calculator, undefined. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to spell it. If you type this into your calculator and you type in negative 3 divided by 0, you're going to get domain error. It's an error because it's undefined. You can't divide anything by 0. Okay? All right, let's take a look at this last page. Yeah, I want you guys to try 7 through 12.